Archaeologists and satellites have captured something unprecedented across the Middle East. Waters that have flowed since the dawn of human civilization are rapidly vanishing, exposing subterranean tunnels, ancient structures, and stone vaults buried beneath the riverbed for thousands of years. As water levels along the Euphrates River drop to historic lows, ancient ruins, carved caves, and long-forgotten stone foundations are suddenly emerging into broad daylight. Even more astonishing, the timeline of this environmental collapse directly intersects with some of the most striking prophecies found in the Bible. What exactly is being uncovered beneath the drying riverbed? Are these simply ancient archaeological sites exposed by prolonged drought and modern dams? Or are we watching the physical stage being set for events foretold thousands of years ago in Scripture? These discoveries reveal far more than ancient history. For millions of believers around the world, they may carry an urgent biblical warning about the rapid approach of the end times and the return of Jesus Christ. Before we go further, if these kinds of questions matter to you, take a second to like this video and subscribe, because we're going deep into both the science and the Scripture tonight. The river that watched civilization begin to understand why the drying of the Euphrates River has captured global attention. We must first look at the unique place this river holds in biblical history and prophecy. Flowing roughly 17 miles through Turkey, Syria, and Iraq before joining the Tigris River, the Euphrates is one of the 4 rivers mentioned at the very beginning of the biblical record in Genesis 2, flowing out of the Garden of Eden. It served as a geographical boundary, a cradle of early human civilization, and a witness to major biblical empires including Babylon and Assyria. This wasn't a minor waterway on the edge of the biblical story. The Euphrates runs through the account of Babel in Genesis 11, through the rise and fall of Babylon in the historical books, through the exile of Israel described by Jeremiah and Ezekiel, and straight into the final book of the New Testament. Few geographic features in Scripture carry that kind of continuous weight, appearing at the beginning of Genesis and again near the very end of Revelation. Throughout Scripture, the Euphrates has marked the boundary between ancient realms and represented the physical barrier separating powers from the east from the Holy Land, a dividing line, both literal and symbolic, between one world and another. Yet Scripture speaks of the Euphrates not only in the context of the past, but also in the context of the final days. Revelation 16:12 records a sobering prophetic vision. And the 6th angel poured out his vial upon the great river Euphrates, and the water thereof was dried up, that the way of the kings of the east might be prepared. For centuries, scholars and commentators treated this passage as purely symbolic, or wondered how such a massive, permanent river system could ever dry up sufficiently to allow armies to march across on dry ground. It read to many generations of readers like an image rather than a literal forecast. Today, satellite imagery from space tells a very different story. It shows the river shrinking dramatically, reservoirs dropping to fractional capacity, and vast stretches of the riverbed turning into cracked, dry dust in places that had known flowing water for as long as recorded history exists. A crisis rooted in real, documented causes. The environmental reality here is undeniable and worth being honest about, because it isn't mysterious in origin. A combination of rising regional temperatures, severe multi-year droughts, and extensive upstream dam networks, particularly large hydroelectric and irrigation projects built in Turkey over the past several decades, has drastically reduced the river's flow downstream into Syria and Iraq. Major reservoirs along the river have seen their storage levels plummet, leaving agricultural communities without irrigation and cutting off vital drinking water supplies to millions of people. Fertile floodplains that sustained farming for thousands of years, going back to some of the very first agricultural societies in human history, are transforming into barren, cracked landscapes. Regional governments have raised repeated diplomatic concerns over upstream water usage, and humanitarian organizations have documented the strain on displaced farming communities as wells run dry and crop yields collapse. None of this requires supernatural explanation to be alarming. It's a documented, ongoing humanitarian and ecological crisis. But as the waters continue to recede, attention has rapidly shifted from the surface crisis to what is now emerging from the riverbed itself. What the retreating water has left behind. As the water receded in northern and central regions along the river's path, ancient structures began breaking through the surface. In several areas where deep water had covered the landscape for decades following the construction of modern dams, retreating waters exposed submerged archaeological sites dating back thousands of years. Stone walls, carved staircases, and subterranean chambers built by ancient civilizations have re-emerged from the mud, undisturbed since the day the water first covered them. In parts of modern-day Iraq and Syria, entire village foundations, ancient burial complexes, and carved bedrock dwellings that had remained hidden beneath the water are now accessible by foot for the first time in living memory. Local residents, some of whom grew up along riverbanks their families had lived beside for generations, described walking across ground their grandparents never saw, ground that had simply always been water. Among the most striking discoveries are complex rock-cut chambers and subterranean tombs carved directly into the limestone banks along the river. In several locations, the drying waters revealed rectangular entrances leading into deep underground networks. Some of these structures feature carved stone pillars, arched doorways, and symmetrical corridors that appear intentionally designed for security or ritual purposes. The kind of deliberate architecture that suggests these weren't simple dwellings, but places built to last and built to be protected. In certain sections, archaeologists and local investigators documented intricate carvings, weathered cuneiform inscriptions, and decorative stone motifs that had been preserved beneath the silt and water for centuries, kept remarkably intact by the very thing that hid them from view. Number chambers beneath the water, and a chilling parallel, the appearance of these dark underground passages has stirred intense interest among biblical researchers, and it's worth understanding exactly why. Revelation 9:14-15 describes another chilling event connected to this same body of water, saying to the sixth angel, which had the trumpet, "Loose the 4 angels which are bound in the great river Euphrates." And the 4 angels were loosed, which were prepared for an hour, and a day, and a month, and a year, for to slay the third part of men. To be clear and careful here, these subterranean tunnels and carved tombs represent physical, historical human architecture, the work of ancient builders, not supernatural prisons described in apocalyptic vision. Scholars can date these structures, study their construction, and place them within known ancient cultures. But the imagery of long-hidden chambers being uncovered as the river dries up still provides an eerie visual parallel to the warnings of Revelation. It forces observers, believers, and skeptics alike to consider how quickly ancient secrets can be exposed once the waters that concealed them are removed, and how much can be hidden patiently for thousands of years, waiting for the right conditions to bring it back into view. A buried city returns to daylight beyond the carved rock chambers. The receding waters have also exposed extensive preclassical settlements. In the Kurdistan region of northern Iraq and along the upper reaches of the river, the rapid drop in reservoir levels briefly exposed a massive city complex complete with a palace, fortification walls, and multi-story buildings made of sun-dried mud bricks. Despite being submerged underwater for decades, several walls remained standing meters high, preserved almost perfectly by the protective layer of sediment that had settled over them like a shroud. Within these newly revealed rooms, researchers uncovered ceramic vessels, clay tablets with ancient cuneiform scripts, and everyday artifacts from a forgotten empire. Cooking pots, storage jars, tools, the ordinary remnants of lives lived thousands of years before anyone alive today was born, all preserved by the very water that swallowed them. Geologists and historians emphasize rightly that the exposure of these sites is the direct consequence of modern water mismanagement, dam operations, and severe climatic shifts. When rivers shrink, submerged history naturally comes to light. There's nothing mystical required to explain the mechanism. Yet the visual reality remains profoundly unsettling regardless of the explanation. Lands that witnessed the rise and fall of the earliest post-flood civilizations are drying out. laying bare the ancient ruins of societies that once believed their power and prosperity would endure forever, the way most civilizations do, right up until they don't. Not an isolated event. The drying of the Euphrates is not an isolated event. Across the globe, waterways, lakes, and seas that have sustained human life for generations are shrinking at an unprecedented pace, revealing forgotten artifacts and reshaping the natural world in ways that feel, to many observers, strangely coordinated even when the causes are locally distinct. In Europe, historic droughts along major rivers like the Danube and the Rhine have exposed centuries-old hunger stones, carved boulders placed in riverbeds during medieval famines bearing ominous warnings etched by previous generations, phrases along the lines of, "If you see me, weep," left behind specifically so that future generations would understand what low water once meant for their ancestors. Hardship, famine, and hard winters ahead. Along the Mississippi River and reservoirs in the American West, dropping water levels have uncovered sunken watercraft, historical settlements, and prehistoric fossils that had remained concealed beneath deep water for decades or centuries. Lake Mead, one of the largest reservoirs in the United States, has at various points dropped low enough to expose sunken boats and even human remains that had been hidden beneath its surface since the lake was first filled in the mid-20th century. Taken individually, each of these events has a local, explainable cause: drought here, dam management there, decades of overuse elsewhere. But taken together, the pattern is hard to ignore. Water systems that humanity has depended on and built around for generations are receding at the same broad moment in history, uncovering what they've hidden for decades or millennia, almost as if the modern era is being asked to reckon with everything it built its foundations on top of. What Jesus said would come before these environmental developments point to a larger pattern described in the teachings of Jesus Christ. In Matthew 24:7, Jesus warned his disciples about the signs that would precede his return. "For nation shall rise against nation, and kingdom against kingdom, and there shall be famines and pestilences and earthquakes in diverse places." The loss of major freshwater systems directly threatens global agriculture, creating widespread food shortages, displacing communities, and sparking geopolitical tensions over water rights, tensions that are already visible today in disputes between nations that share river systems like the Euphrates and Tigris. When rivers dry up, famines follow. When food and clean water become scarce, instability grows, and history shows repeatedly that resource scarcity is one of the oldest triggers of conflict between peoples. These compounding crises serve as a vivid reminder that the resources humanity takes for granted are fragile, finite, and easily disrupted, no matter how permanent they've felt across the span of a human lifetime. A modern convergence for generations. Skeptics questioned how ancient biblical prophecies concerning global water systems, widespread drought, and shifting geopolitical power could ever materialize in a modern, technologically advanced world with dams, irrigation systems, and satellite monitoring. It seemed to many readers across church history like language too dramatic to ever literally occur. Yet today, satellite surveillance, meteorological data, and environmental monitoring confirm that the physical conditions described in the books of Daniel, Ezekiel, and Revelation are converging with remarkable precision in the very region where much of that scripture was originally written. The drying of the Euphrates is no longer a distant theoretical concept discussed only in commentaries and seminary classrooms. It is an active, observable, measurable reality occurring in our lifetime, tracked in real time by the same satellites used to monitor climate change and agricultural yields worldwide. Watchfulness, not fear. The Bible makes clear that when these signs begin to appear, they are not intended to provoke senseless fear or panic. Instead, they are given as spiritual markers to keep believers watchful, faithful, and prepared. In Luke 21:28, Jesus told his followers, "And when these things begin to come to pass, then look up and lift up your heads, for your redemption draweth nigh." That instruction matters as much as anything else in this video. Jesus didn't tell his followers to brace for disaster with dread. He told them to lift their heads, a posture of hope, not despair, even in the middle of upheaval. The events unfolding in the Middle East and across the earth remind humanity That time is moving toward an appointed conclusion, one Scripture has described for thousands of years with remarkable consistency. What appears permanent on the surface of this world, a river that has flowed since before recorded history, an empire that believed itself eternal, a foundation nobody thought to question, can vanish in a moment. And the unchanging truth of Scripture stands firm above the shifting currents of history, exactly as it always has. If this walked you through something you hadn't considered before, let me know in the comments which part stood out to you most, and subscribe so you don't miss what we uncover next.